All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the Mikestand. So we're gonna give it a few minutes to give people a chance to come in. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. Don't know if any of you were here last night, but last night on which was Sunday, December 4th, we premiered a new portion of our show, the weekend edition, in which that's going to be a live. It's going to be basically an open panel show, which I'll have guests on. We'll talk about various topics in the niche world, from anime to cartoons, comics, manga and pro wrestling, as do here, every night of the week. So hope you guys will come, be here throughout the week and for the niche newscast, and then the historical comic retrospect on Friday, and then on Sunday, of course, back here when I bring in a bunch of people to talk, niche. Anyways, as I said, we're just waiting for people to come in. I'm going to step away here for a moment to do something real quick, but while I'm gone, I'll leave some music on for you guys. We are continuing to wait to see if people show up. Anyways, let me just give you guys some music giddles to wait, and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm back. And we're just giving people a chance to come in. Hopefully, we'll have some work soon. Um, let's see. So, Conan, the adventurer, Conan, man of bravery. He's more powerful than any man who's been. Well, hello, we have a third person here. Hello. Hope you're having a good week early on here thus far, and thank you for the like and the share. All right, well, we have another person in here, so maybe I'll go ahead and start a little early here then, right away. Get right into the top. So here's what's on tap for tonight. Um, we're gonna go over 4 stories. Hey, Shadowhawk, thanks for dropping in, my friend. Yeah, so we're gonna go over some articles here from Bounding into Comics, including Eric July, I guess, explaining why Marvel introducing Adam Warlock in the Guardians of the Galaxy is utterly pointless. Crunchyroll releases a Sword Art Online progressive aria censors Asuna bath scene. That's another article we're going to be looking at. We got some more news coming out of Pixiv over some of the censorship in regards to the artwork they're doing. And then Shueisha apparently is maybe bending the knee a little bit. And of course, we do have the wrestling roundup. I think you sent me a link, didn't you? Yeah, that was yesterday, Shadowhawk. We were so starting last night, I decided to start doing an open panel show called the Mikestand Weekend Edition, where I'm going to basically be bringing people on. Essentially, I'm basically doing what RJ's doing, but with him being busy and stuff like that, I'm going to be doing it like every week. So I just, I talked to him about it and stuff like that, and so I'll probably, so I'll be hosting an open panel show on Sunday nights now, 5 o'clock Pacific, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. I know there's possibility you and oh shoot, sorry, Mike. No problem. Hey, just start being on the lookout for it, man. Just start being on the lookout for it because we're gonna be doing it every week. So, I know that I know you're still, I know Rex is, does his show and sometimes he runs a little long. I sent him the link as well, in case he wanted to join as well. So, just be on the lookout for it. And if you guys, get done with his show, whatever, um, feel free to pop over to ours. And if I'm not on with Rex, I'd be happy to come on. Come on, bro. Oh yeah, I mean we're going to be doing it every week. So yeah, Shadowhawk. And I know I'm guessing you already liked and shared, so that should help. Hopefully, we can get some more friendly people in here. Anyways, all that said, but just as I said, be on the lookout for it because I'm going to be sending out links. We're going to be doing it every week. Cool. All right. So with that, why don't we go ahead and I think I did just I already mentioned what we're going to talk about tonight. Covering some articles from Bounding into Comics. We'll do some wrestling roundup, and then this day in each history as well. With all that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started now that we're almost at the 9-minute mark here. I hope you'll stick around. And of course, Shadowhawk, as always, if anything here catches your attention, feel free to comment or ask questions. If I can, I'll do my best to answer the questions if I can. So, anyways, let's get into this then. Get into the first article here. All right, so here's the first article we're going to look at. Oh, and I don't know if you noticed, but I have a new background up as well, courtesy of RJ. RJ helped me out with that. So RJ kind of helped me out with that with that new background. So hopefully that looks a little nicer. Than just the plain stuff I had on before. Anyways, let's get into this. So, Eric July, who we all know as Young Rippa 59, explains why Marvel introducing Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is quote unquote utterly pointless and a quote unquote botched opportunity. Article by John F. Trent, published December 2nd, which was this past Friday. So let's get into this then. Eric July, the creator of ISOM, reacted to the release of the new Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 trailer and its introduction of Adam Warlock by claiming his introduction is quote unquote utterly pointless and a quote unquote botched opportunity. Wonder why he would say that. Well, I guess we're going to find out as we continue to read, right? Let's see. Oh, are you green screen it? No, it shouldn't be green. You don't see the background there? Well, I guess you can't because I have everything up, but like, um, but behind me there, of course, are some animated pictures of me in various poses. But yeah, I'll unshare it. If Um, see if I can. I guess I can't. Anyways, all right. Well, anyways, for now, hope you didn't leave on me there, Shadowhawk. um, yeah, let me put this back up. There you are. You're back. Okay. All right. All right. So, in the newly released, A. Okay, it should. I think the A is that might have been a typo right there. But in the newly released trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, a first look at Will Poulter's Adam Warlock is shown off at the minute 28 mark. July initially reacted to Warlock's inclusion, writing on Twitter, quote, they have no idea what the bleep they're doing over there, unquote. He added, quote, it's utterly pointless to bring him in now, considering Thanos is gone. Botched opportunity, unquote. And yes, I will censor myself at least in that regard, in terms of swear words. Um, well, I thought maybe you got the screen to do the background with. My internet is sketchy sometimes. Okay, that explains it. Huh? Well, I hope you'll stick around enough to I always like the company, as you know. Let's see. Oh wait, no, 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 no. Oh, did I allow that to show? Let's see. Yeah, I guess I didn't see it here, but I decided to let that one. Let's see. He does not look good, bleep, and he looks like a wussy Adam Warlock is supposed to be the perfection of his species. Hmm. But anyways, He further elaborated on his thoughts on YouTube, saying, quote, "These guys don't know what they're doing with some of these characters that get introduced, because I do think that there is no true cohesion with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it hasn't been for a long time," unquote. He continued, quote, "Just like the comic books, it became one of those things where it's like, you get a movie, you get a movie, you get a movie, and do whatever it is that you want. Maybe you have a pool of characters that you can choose from to include, but ultimately, we're not wanting you guys to be knowledgeable, let's say, on some kind of source material, as well as constantly working together with your colleagues to make a cohesive story," unquote. Sorry, Mike. I'm trying to keep my language fairly clean. That's okay. I mean, you did at least with the WTF. It did at least do it that much. So, um, I know some people can get a little more excitable, but anyways, let's continue on here. Specifically, turning his attention to Adam Warlock's appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, July said, quote, "It doesn't look too good. You're completely correct. That's not even what I want to focus on. That's the layup. That's the easy part. I guess layup as in basketball term, meaning when you just shovel the ball into the hoop." He went on to cite his tweet and then elaborated, quote, "I called it a botched opportunity when it happened. I don't think Warlock was one of those characters that was tied up in some of the rights issues that they had, because they alluded to him existing in a previous Guardians of the Galaxy movie," unquote. The lie continued, quote, "And when you consider who Adam Warlock is and what he is essentially known for in the comic book, have Thanos there and not utilize the character when you introduce them was moronic. That was a drop. That was a drop the ball completely, and it was a botched opportunity." All right, isn't that the most cohesive manner there? But I guess it's effective enough. Continuity is the most important thing in any comics. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Well, if you think about it, in any form of fiction, continuity is very key. I mean, I mean, without continuity, it's like it's just kind of swimming around in malaise, right? For those not familiar with Warlock's comic history, he first appeared in Fantastic Four number 66 as him. Kind of reminds me of how Cartoon Network Studios uses that term to describe, the devil in Powerpuff Girls. Um, and a few years later, would be introduced as Adam Warlock in Marvel Premiere number 1. He would go on to play a prominent role in the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, showcasing him as one of Thanos' primary foes. Um, he would orchestrate a final battle against Thanos to deprive him of the Infinity Gauntlet, albeit his initial plan to have the Silver Surfer snag the gauntlet as the attack Captain America failed. I guess that's a picture of Adam Warlock right there. He actually kind of looks like Banshee to me, just in more in red and yellow as opposed to green. While his initial plan would be foiled, his long-term plan came to fruition, and he would claim the Infinity Gauntlet as his own, defeating both an arrogant Nebula and a prideful Thanos. Arrogant Nebula and prideful Thanos. That sounds like a very interesting tag team, doesn't it? The arrogant Nebula and the prideful Thanos. That sounds like a very, very interesting tag team. All right. So, anyways, as we continue on here, after obtaining the gauntlet, Warlock would fashion himself a god that would use the power of the Infinity Gauntlet wisely. Let the conflict end. So they got Green Goblin. Oh, wait, no, that might be a Kree actually. Got Thor. I think that guy could be Al. Things for Al. That guy's a Green Goblin or a Kree right there. I think. Or, no, that might be a Skrull. Referencing this comic book story, July later states in his video, quote, there was so much opportunity and you just neglected it for what? And now you introduce Thanos' brother, introduce Adam Warlock after Thanos is all gone. It's pointless. Now you're just, quote, hey, it's an IT farm. We have this character, let's use him. Let's use him. Yeah, that kind of like loose cannon stuff probably won't go over too well with a lot of people. Quote, and I think that's the frustration. If you are not knowledgeable on the books, it's more of these are easy things, he asserted. Look, man, quote, look, man, these fans are not asking you to just bend over backwards for the material. No, it's like, dude, it's more like quotes here, show some love, unquote. Hmm. Let's see. He then noted, quote, show us that you actually care about these people, that this material doesn't exist if it had it not been for these creatives, and it had it not been for these supporters, these customers of this work, and then you just bastardized these characters, unquote. July's comments echo former TV executive Paul Chado's recent comment during an appearance on Midnight Edge in the morning, number 326. Chado stated, quote, I think in many ways MCU kind of ruined things in that comic books have traditionally had their own arc, often based on a writer. So you would get the Dan Slott She-Hulk, which is kind of what They screwed up. So, but then you got the John Byrne deal. There's nothing stopping any of these companies to just go, okay, we're just going to do the Dan Slott thing, the John Byrne thing, the Galactus Fantastic Four, and has a beginning, middle, and an end. Small quotes. It has its own cast, and then you get a new cast for the next set, just exactly like they do in the comics. Where they find a new artist, new writer, you get a new experience, unquote, he said. Quote, MCU kind of blew that up because they took segments of contiguous comic series and pulled stuff from them all and ruined those series, unquote, he asserted. So you can even go back to the series that they pulled ideas from to make a continuous arc from that edition. The MCU poisoned the well in many ways, unquote, he concluded. What do you make of July's explanation? Is there a reason to introduce Adam Warlock now, with with his main foe Thanos already being vanquished multiple times in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by the Avengers? Yeah, I could see it. I could kind of see his point there. May not be, let's say, as you know, as word, Anyways, let me see. Anyways, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment, so before I do that, let me do this. Alrighty then. So, anyways, I do need to step away from the computer for a moment. I'll be right back, but I will put some music on for you guys. I'm gone. Alrighty, then I'm back, everybody. So let's get ready to move on to the next article here. Just after the 30-minute mark, 32 minutes, almost coming up on 33 minutes. So let's get on to the next article here. This one regarding anime and censorship a little bit here. Crunchyroll release of Sword Art Online Progressive Aria of a Starry Night censors Asuna Baxting. Article by Nerdigans Inc., published December 6th of this past Friday. Alright, so let's see what's going on here. Much to the dismay of many a Western fan who hope to close out their Thanksgiving holiday with a viewing of the series' latest cinematic outing, Crunchyroll has apparently censored their upload of Sword Art Online Progressive Aria of a Starless Night. Sitting down on November 24th to take in the first animated adaptation of the Progressive light novels, which provides a more expansive retelling of the Sword Art Online story, fans were quick to notice that the version made available on Crunchyroll had been heavily censored. Centering on the series' female protagonist, the specific scene not questions, focuses on a battle-weary Asuna taking a moment to bathe herself as she struggles to accept the fact that she is now trapped within the world of the series' eponymous MMO, or multimedia online. As thoroughly detailed by YouTuber at Lucas LKP, in the uncensored Blu-ray release of the film, this scene treats viewers to a few moments of brief fan service as Asuna enjoys a brief respite. Her quick shift from relaxation to worry, emphasizing the toll the ordeal is taking on her body. And then I guess this is some of the scenes they're talking about there. However, thanks to the platform's delicate sensitivities, this scene is almost entirely different when viewed on Crunchyroll. Let's see. Rather than show any hint of Asuna's bare skin, Crunchyroll's version of Aria of a Starless Night not only covers up her bra-covered chest with a strange hard light shirt as she prepares to enter the bath. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, there was no need to censor that. That's a natural thing. I mean, that's if they're censoring that for because fans are. I mean, there's nothing really aside from the fact that she's more exposed, but nothing sexual about that. It also takes things a step further by avoiding shots of her bathing body in favor of random environmental shots, such as a faucet pouring water into the tub. Now the uncensored, you can barely see anything anyways. And they felt the need to censor that. You could barely see her body to begin because there's so much steam going on there. There's so much steam you can't really make out too much. Maybe the general form, yeah, but ridiculous. Or in an instance which ends up making viewers seem like more of a quote unquote creepy peeping Tom in the original, a zoomed out shot of her current location, the house she shares with Kirito. Yeah. Anyways, most baffling of all, however, may be the censorship applied to a subsequent shot of Asuna relaxing in the tub. In the uncensored version, the heroine's head, neck, hands, and chest, the last being heavily obscured by a reflection of light, are visible through the bathwater. But on Crunchyroll, the clean bathwater seen earlier is replaced with a murky alternative which serves to hide her body from the shoulder down. Yeah, so what are they trying to do with the censored version then? Are they trying to basically imply that she's bathing in dirty water there? Because it's almost like, okay, now you're making the suggestion there with the censored version that the water must have rinsed off all the dirt and grime on her, and that's what you're seeing. That's what it kind of looks like. Even her eventual exit from the tub couldn't escape Censor's eyes. Originally, when rising out of the bath, Asuna's bare upper body, her chest, covered by her arm, can be seen as she prepares to lift herself up. Meanwhile, in Crunchyroll's version, the camera shifts upward to the extent that only her head is visible. Any hint of possible nudity being simply pushed out of frame. Of course. That is kind of ridiculous. Again, that is kind of ridiculous. Uh, all right, and we shall move on here. The decision by Crunchyroll to opt for a censored version of Aria of a Starless Night over the uncensored version has been a particularly baffling one for fans, particularly as the platform is not averse to presenting such series as Berserk the Golden Age arc, memorable editions, as their production teams originally intended. Anyways, well, plus this is a subscription service too. It's not like if you're censoring it so little kids can't see stuff they shouldn't. This is a subscription service to begin with. And I would imagine that you got to be 18, you got to be a legal adult in order to subscribe. So I mean, it's one of those things where, it doesn't really seem to make much sense unless, of course, you got people at Crunchyroll who are crying who are screaming CP CP CP, even though Asuna is, I think she's like what 17, she's probably like 16 or 17, which even here in many states in the United States is considered of legal age. So it may not be federally, but in many states it's considered, in many parts of the world, 16 or 17 is considered of quote unquote legal age. So however, due to the fact that streaming services must separately license a given anime's censored and uncensored releases, some have begun to speculate that Crunchyroll has opted to only host the butchered version of Aria of a Starless Night in order to drive up sale for the film's upcoming English language uncensored Blu-ray release. Because if you really want to see it uncensored in English, they want to try to drive that kind of makes some sense. Granted, it may be kind of a dookie way of doing things, but sometimes people, unfortunately, the unaltered version of Sword Art Online progressive Aria of a Starless Night is currently on track to hit U.S. shores on January 24th, 2023. Now, with that, of course, unless they've changed the actor and actress for this movie, it's likely that that in the English version, Kirito will still be voiced by Bryce Papenbrook, and Karami Lee will be doing the voice of Asuna. So, unless, of course, they decided to change it for some reason. January 24th, 2023. That's trying to think of not MacB. So, yeah, it's on a Tuesday. All right, so there we go with that one, that article. And we're going to get into the next article. Kind of a follow up to an article we did I think a week or so ago, as I did here a little. Let's see, Code 66 Gaming. What are you asking now? What does docile mean, and do you use it, and how do you use it in a sentence? Well, docile basically means like kind of like at peace or quiet. The docile elderly man sat quietly as he watched from the porch the people passing by. So, anyways, 4 people watching. Goody, yay! Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good week thus far and had a good weekend. Anyways, and if you guys can also help by liking and sharing the stream, so we can get some more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Anyways, let's get back to this now. Okay. Japanese art community Pixiv clarifies new terms of service. will begin taking action against artists who, quote, repeatedly neglect requests to modify their works, unquote. Nerdigan, article by Nerdigans Inc., published December 2nd, 2022. This is from Art and... Okay. So ever since Pixiv's November 15th announcement that they would be cracking down on uploads subjectively deemed offensive to public order and morals, quote unquote. Users have feared what ramifications that vaguely defined terms of this new campaign would hold for the community. Updated in order to comply with the quote unquote terms and conditions of international card brands. From what I understand, it's credit card companies basically, and taking effect on December 15th, which will be 10 days from now. The site's new terms of service prohibit any quote unquote content or products, fictional artwork or otherwise, depicting quote CP or CA. Let's see. Incest, bestiality, ARP, S acts without consent, legal mutilation of the person or body, and other acts that are offensive to public order and morals, unquote. Taking note of the growing concern among artists that this new policy would be arbitrarily enforced regardless of their original intentions in order to bring artwork in line with Western ideology. Well, they're saying of Western ideologies, but of doesn't need to be there. Western ideologies, as well as their growing threats to leave the platform en masse. Pixiv responded to their worried up user base on September 30th with a statement elaborating on the specifics of their new policy. So basically what's going on here is that when Pixiv initially made the announcement, the terms were so broad and vague, people weren't exactly sure what that meant. And I guess many artists have talked about, okay, if you're going to be censoring my work this much, then I think I'm going to consider leaving this platform, going to one that will actually let me do my work and show my work. Quote, currently, Pixiv is aware of products that violate not only our terms and conditions and the terms and conditions of international card brands, but also laws and ordinances such as products with live action images that are offensive to public order and morals, unquote. The site's administration began making reference to the growing use of AI art to disguise CP and necrophilia content in order to openly trade it on the platform. In other words, I think what they're saying here, what Pixiv is saying there is that people are trying to get by it by utilizing, AI or artificial intelligences, basically entities that are not real people, to still be able to show certain acts that many people would find offensive or even downright illegal. Quote, PIGSIB will strictly enforce against such products, unquote, they added. Quote, however, it is not PIGSIB's intention to have creators become excessively inhibited by the crackdown, as it is our it is our important policy to protect free creativity and respected content. But here's the problem with them giving into what. Here's the problem, and we've talked about this on my channel. It's been talked about on many other people's channels. Here's the problem with that kind of reasoning. What may be problematic to public order and morals to one person may not necessarily be problematic to another, right? Plus, as we even talked about in the previous article, where Crunchyroll was censoring images of Asuna in the bath. Okay. The problem is you got the credit card company, and people would take it, there are ways people would take it way too far at times. I've used one of the, like one example I've been giving of late is the idea of when you have, now what's obvious, what's kind of natural when you have two young children, toddlers, toddlers to early childhood, kids that are maybe in that 3 to 7 range, where they do a lot of times, little boys and little girls do take baths together with their parents there, monitoring them, obviously. Okay? Somebody might decide to draw, do some artwork like that. Now, their intent, the artist's intent, it may have nothing to do with sex. May not have anything to do with anything sexual. It may just be showing, the innocence of children playing in the bath together or taking a bath together. But yet you have people here who would take it as, oh, that's sexual. And for anybody who would take something like that, who would, let's say, take a piece, any form of art, whether that be, a drawing, a video, a picture, whatever. Anybody who would take something as innocent as, let's say, two kids taking a bath together and try to make it sound like it's something sexual. The problem isn't necessarily with the artist. It's with the person. With that particular person looking at the picture. If they are thinking something sexual about that picture, there's something wrong with them, not the artist. So, let's see. All right, so continuing on here. To this end, the site then revealed that in light of the backlash, they would be creating two separate classifications for works that their terms, each with their own specific criteria and enforcement procedures. The first, prohibited products, quote unquote prohibited products, entails, quote, products that are offensive to public order and morals due to live action photography in products that are offensive to public order and morals, and that cannot completely dispel concerns that there are actual victims due to the use of highly realistic expressions, such as highly photorealistic images. Okay, so I guess what they're saying is if the photograph looks a little too real, then it could be considered a problem. If you have like a photograph of a naked child, depending upon what that naked child is doing, heck, babies are generally naked most of the time, with the exception, of course, of their diaper. But quote: if a product is found to be in violation, in brackets here, we may respond with bracket unbracketed deletion or permanent suspension of the product, account suspension, and restrictions on the offender's use of certain payment methods, unquote, they added. So I guess what they're saying is that if you basically use a photograph that's that may be a little too realistic and depicts somebody who may be a victim, they may crack down on you. That's what it sounds like they're saying there. The second, quote, products requiring correction will meanwhile be used to address art that is not, quote, live action or highly realistic. In other words, drawings, animation kind of thing, but has been, quote, judged to require modification based on the content of the expression and accompanying data, title, tags, text of the post, and other explanatory text. Quote, if a product is found to be in violation, we may temporarily pull the product and request correction, unquote. Pics have detailed, quote, if the above mentioned violation is resolved as a result of the correction, the product can be sold again, in brackets, but if we deem a product to be malicious, such as registering a large number of products that clearly require modification or repeatedly neglecting requests for modification, we may take action such as removing or permanently deactivating the product, suspending the account, or prohibiting or restricting the use of specific payment method, unquote. Like, here's, I guess, an example of it here with this CG art of Chung Li, and she's obviously they got a bit endowed there. In conclusion to their statement, Pixiv attempted to assure its users that, quote, it is an important policy of, in brackets, the sites to protect free creation and respect its content, unquote. Quote, we believe that creating a safe environment for our users to conduct business with us will help us in this regard, which is why we have decided to make this change, unquote. Pixiv's administration included, quote, we appreciate your understanding and cooperation. All right. So again, though, they're basically talking about the two separate problems between photographs and drawings. Are there two issues there? Photograph. But here's the thing, particularly with the drawing portion of it. Well, maybe even to a lesser degree with the photograph aspect, right? I go back again to the idea, since a lot of people seem anytime there's any kind of, regardless of what they're doing, if there's a naked child involved, to a lot of these people, it must be sexual. Okay, that line of thinking is stupid. Okay, that line of thinking is stupid. And I go back to, again, the classic view of, when you have little kids, they do take baths together, you know, um, little boys and little girls have been taking baths together, you know, since the dawn of time, you know. Um, you know, that doesn't make it, if you decide to draw, two little kids taking a bath together, or you decide to take a picture of two little kids taking a bath together, that doesn't make you a pervert, doesn't make you doesn't make it CP, doesn't make it, it doesn't make it sexual at all. You may be capturing the innocence of it. You may be capturing, um, something entirely pure in it. If you, as a viewer, however, if you look at that picture, or whether it's a photograph or a drawing, and you decide that there's some kind of sexual meaning to it, I'm talking about, of course, the idea of two kids, the kids taking baths together. Okay, the problem isn't the artist; the problem is you. Anyways. Now, let me conclude with this. Yes, you do want to crack down on legitimate child porn, stuff that is obvious, um, stuff that is obviously illegal and unsafe. Okay, you do legitimately want to crack down on that. Okay, don't get me wrong. But we've gotten to the point where we're just so overly sensitive to every little thing that sometimes, it gets to the point where people will just make incredible jumps in reason, and call stuff something that it's not. And we've seen it time and again, right? So that's the point I wanted to make on that. So I have one more article we're going to go through here. Maybe more if there. And this was the last of the original articles we're going to look at tonight, right here. And again, it's another censorship article. Hey, Rick. Hey, Rick. Thanks for popping in, my friend. Hopefully, and thank you for the like and the share. We've been talking about some interesting stuff here. All right. So, anyways. See, well, we're already past the hour mark here, so that's pretty good. Of course, that last article, we've got some pretty heavy stuff we're talking about tonight, too. Quite a bit of censorship stories coming out. The picture story that I just talked about was kind of a follow-up to article we looked at a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. So, anyways, let's look at this next article. Shueisha pulls in smaller quotes, special support underground idol unit, happy disabled children, girls, smaller quote, following complaints of, quote, discriminatory expressions, unquote. Article by Nerdigans. This is manga, Nerdigan censorship manga. This is more censoring of manga. Let's see what's going on here. Though the Japanese manga industry has regularly produced works featuring the type of diversity the Western entertainment so pathetically attempts to disingenuously virtue signal for, it seems a line has been drawn when it comes to adorable handicapped idols. Oh, are these people maybe claiming exploitation? But the created by Watamoto Futon, Special Support Underground Idol Unit, Happy Disabled Children Girls, follows a group of disabled high school disabled high school girls. Again, adding an A in there that doesn't need to be added. Led by the armless and legless Emo-chan, as they chase their dreams of overcoming their limitations and becoming the idols in Japan. Beginning its serialization in Shueisha's manga self-submission platform Rookie Jump on September 14th, the girls were able to chase their dreams for just 2 chapters before their time on the stage was cut short. Now, as always, guys, if you guys have anything to add to the conversation, feel free to, if anything catches your attention, feel free to, of course, comment or ask questions about it. I'll try to answer the questions as best I can. But that will continue with this, of course. Let's see. On October 21st, rather than being met with the series' 3rd chapter, fans instead logged onto Rookie Jump to discover that Shueisha had not only abruptly dropped the series from serialization, but also deleted its previous 2 releases. In light of this sudden development, Bounding into Comics reached out to Futon himself for further information regarding Special Support Underground Idol Unit Happy Disabled Children's Girl termination. Bounding into Comics. How did you decide to have the main characters of Special Support Underground Idol Unit Happy Disabled Children Girls to be disabled? Futon. I thought it would be interesting to have the story revolve around a character who is socially considered the most vulnerable. Okay, that's very interesting. Bounding into Comics. What do you think was the cause of the complaints which led to Shueisha's terminating Special Support Underground Idol Unit Happy Disabled Children Girls? Watamoto Futon. Maybe because it was misinterpreted that Shueisha publicly marketed a series with the type of representation and spread across. Say what? Maybe because it was misinterpreted that Shueisha publicly marketed a series with that type of representation and spread across social media. Okay, I don't fully understand that answer. I mean, you would think, again, and maybe that's the point of this article too, is that, it doesn't make much sense that they would have such an issue. I mean, the idea of young girls who are disabled overcoming their disabilities to become idols, that actually sounds like a pretty good story. Especially when you got the leader of the group who basically is limbless. and still being able to show she can lead the group and do whatever. You would think that this is a story that people would want to read. I mean, I have a feeling I know what the complaints were probably actually about, but I guess we'll wait to see, just based on how I'm seeing it here and how we're going to know virtue signaling and cancel culture of late. So let's continue with this interview here. So, bounding into comics, how did you find out that the series was going to be cut by Shueisha? Watamoto Futon. I received an email from Shueisha saying that I violated the terms and conditions. Specifically, it violated the quote, in smaller quotes, discriminatory expressions, unquote, of Jump Rookie's terms and services. Discriminatory. Okay. I would like to know how they interpreted that disabled girls achieving dreams violates a discriminatory expression. I'd like to hear that. It was determined by Shueisha that the manga included discriminatory language and it was removed. I am not angry because that's the operating standard of a private company. Unquote. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Discriminatory language. Okay, what was the context of that discriminatory language? Was it something that helped the story along? You know, or was it just gratuitous? Again, what's their underlying thought process for that? That's what I'd be wondering. Anyways, this operating standard referred to by Futon is detailed in Article 7 of Jump Rookie's Terms and Services translated by Deepel, wherein it is noted that, quote, Shueisha legally has the option to take action such as deletion or suspension of works which they have determined to contain discrimination, which condone, encourage, or incite discrimination on the basis of ethnicity, nation or national origin, race, color, lineage, region of residence, sex, disability, disease, physical characteristics, religion, ideology or creed, occupation, social status, educational background, living conditions. Okay, so your typical fare there. But again, okay, so going back to that for a moment. Which condone, encourage, or incite discrimination. Okay. Again, I go back to the idea, how was the language applied in the story? Was it, because, they could argue that saying something might be condoning of discrimination, but it may be just a telling of, it could be a real world situation, right? Kids can be cruel. Obviously, we've seen that. We've all seen that in our lifetimes, right? There are times when kids can be mean to each other. So, are they trying to say that the way he wrote wrote it was in a way that was encouraging the reader to go out and act and behave in that manner? Or was it actually written in a way where it was part of the story, where it was reflective of what maybe somebody who's disabled, you know, that might be a real world. Like, the underlying thing of the story here is about disabled girls achieving their dreams of becoming a pop idol group, right? So if you have characters in there that are telling these disabled girls, "Oh no, you're disabled. You can't do that. You're disabled. You're not going to succeed. You know, okay, that language, yeah, that might condone, encourage, or incite discrimination. However, that's a reality a lot of disabled people face. A lot of disabled people will be told, you can't do this or you can't do that, or that's just too impossible for you to do. That's a reality. So if they're citing something like that as quote, condoning, encouraging, or inciting discrimination, that's going overboard. Again, since I haven't actually read the art, since I haven't read the manga myself, I don't know what a lot of this is, what a lot of this is based on. So it's hard for me to say, but I'm just giving plausible situations here. In conclusion to our correspondence, Fulton admitted that though he would like to one day see his work reach Western audiences, he was aware that its release could like to a storm of. All right. Again, that seems like a typo. I think he meant to say could lead to a storm of outrage. So let's see what Watamoto Futon here had to say. Eventually, I would like to make an English version of Special Support Underground Idol Unit Happy Disabled Children Girls and publish it overseas. But I am concerned about how the series would be perceived abroad. It is possible for a manga featuring a disabled main character to survive in the West. Again, I think you have to look at context. Context is everything. So when they cite, we think this condones, encourages, or incites discrimination. Okay, well, what's the actual context of what's being said? What are you saying what are you finding offensive in what he's writing? And what's the context of it? Because what you have to understand is maybe the context is a situation where it is a real life situation that a lot of disabled people, would find themselves in. Again, I go back to the example I gave before here, right? As a disabled person, sometimes you're told, "Oh, you can't do this or you can't do that because of your disability." You know, you know, um, you can't, no, you can't be a YouTuber because you're disabled, or you can't be a CEO because you're disabled, or you can't get rich because you're disabled. If you have an idea and you have enough motivation to succeed with that idea, you can succeed in anything. Yeah, for disabled people, maybe they do have more challenges to overcome, but it doesn't mean they can't overcome those challenges. Okay. Again, I don't know enough about the story here. I haven't read it myself to where I haven't read the manga myself to determine that. But in this whole idea of well, it condones, encourages, or incites discrimination. I would be asking, how? What's the context? What is the context of what's being said? And then, asking, okay, is it really, as you say? Anyways, getting ready to move on here. Let's see if anybody else has dropped in. No, I still haven't had people drop in a while. Which is a shame because this is some pretty meaty stuff here. I think a lot of people might be interested in this stuff here. Despite this setback, Futon is continuing to draw and publish their manga works, including additional special support underground idol unit, happy disabled children's girls content on Twitter. Now, this is a manga. I kind of wish this guy could reach out to RJ. I'd love to see RJ bring this guy on and try to, maybe help push the book in the West here, for possible English release, at some point. But I know RJ focuses more on Western comics, but this one, at least the basic premise anyway, sounds very good. The idea of a group of disabled girls, trying to become idols and the challenges that they must overcome. But then in doing that, you also got to understand that, the things that they say about this idea of language that condones, encourages, or incites discrimination could be reflective of what disabled people in general face every day. So, context, people. Context. All right, and there we go with that one. So let's see where we're at now. See where we're at now. Let's see. Oh, wow, we're coming up on an hour 25. And I see there's a third person in here. So I'm glad you're here. Hopefully you heard some of that. Anyways, I'm going to need to step away from the camera for a moment. I'll be right back. I'll put some music on, but hopefully, I can sit on what I just read through. And I'll be right back. Let me just go ahead and music on. Again, if you have anything you want to add to the conversation, feel free to do so. All right. So, yeah, that fathom rig unfortunately probably curtailed person wanting to stay and wait. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, anyways, let's get back to this. Let's see. We're coming up on an hour and a half, so I might start to wind things down a bit. We do have a question. Um, because I know there was a couple other, there was some newer stories came up as we were doing all this. Let's see if there's anything. Hmm. All right, so from the looks of it, looks like there's nothing more on here. Let's see. As said, let's see now. Where are we at? Let's see. An hour and a half here. So yeah, I think I am gonna start to wind down a bit here, a little early. Um, get into the wrestling wrap up here. Right now, as we do have some, of course, we had some interesting wrestling news that came out over. So one of the big stories going on right now is in regards to William Regal. Some of you may have seen about a couple weeks ago on Dynamite where MJF turned on him, and there's been some talk that, and there are rumors going around that Regal is most likely going to be back in the WWE by January 2023. MJF attacking him was serving as a way to write him out. People will run because there's been a lot of talk. Okay, is he under contract? Is he not? What's the status of his Well, apparently he did sign a 3-year contract and may have an out clause that allows him to leave if he should decide to do so. Like one of the things that's been talked about is he may have put the out clause in if, let's say, Triple H, who he apparently had a very good working relationship with in the past, um, came more into power in the WWE on creative. A lot of talk of Regal and Triple H getting back together and working together creatively. on stuff. A lot of people say that now Regal. There's been some talk too that Regal said he may have somewhat regretted signing with AEW, noting kind of a lack of maturity in management. Um, when you have Tony Khan, um, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, of course, Cody was also part of it initially until he left the company. But and as James Lee has pointed out on some of our, when we're doing open mic nights on RJ's channel, and where AEW is going through its growing pains. But yeah, so there at least seems to be a big thing going on where Regal may be going back to the WWE, possibly to serve in some, maybe backstage role as an agent. If he does have an on-air role, be as somewhat of an authority figure, maybe like a commissioner of Raw or SmackDown or something like that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. See how these things, and that would also lead to wonder. Okay, what would that mean for the Blackpool Combat Club? What's next? Now, as I've noted, now leading into that, of course, with some Ring of Honor news this Saturday. I believe this Saturday, Ring of Honor, which is now owned by Tony Khan, is having its Final Battle pay-per-view. And already signed to that event includes, for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight title, Chris Jericho will be defending against Claudio Castagnoli, with a stipulation put in there that if Claudio loses the match, I believe, I don't know if it's full on if he either doesn't win the title or if he loses. If he loses the match, he will have to join the Jericho Appreciation Society. Menard noting how Claudio, for the good sports entertainer while he was in the WWE, and could be a good sports entertainer for AAS. Um, Claudio has stated that he came to AEW to prove that he was a good wrestler. So that's the AEW Women's World Title will be on the line as as Mercedes Martinez will be um, defending against Martinez. Martinez been on a bit of a tear of late, abusing their opponents, abusing referees. He was suspended for a week. His more aggressive style is kind of a double-edged sword because on one hand you think, maybe she needed to do this to maybe get noticed, but at the same time, it does her no good if she's end up sitting at home anyways because she's getting suspended. And then for the pure title, Wheeler Yuta will challenges Daniel Garcia once again to try to regain that title. Now, of course, right now the Blackpool Combat Club's in a little bit of disarray, as with Regal betraying them and now possibly leaving AEW. You see some schisms happening within the group. You were seeing them even before that, but John Moxley, wasn't too happy. Now he's getting caught up in a feud with Hangman Adam Page, and then who feels disrespected by Moxley for Moxley calling him a kid. Adam Page, of course, coming back from his concussion. You also have a situation where Bryan Danielson practically begged Moxley not to attack Regal when they confronted him after what Regal did, in opening, MJF. win the title. So, and then MJF showed just how much of a devil he was, as we saw. So it's gonna be interesting to see how the Blackpool Combat Club, story continues. Let's see. What other news is there? We already went over the Ring of Honor. And there is some sad news to report. Former NWA World Heavyweight Champion, WWE Hall of Famer Barry Windham suffered a heart attack over the weekend. He is currently in ICU. He seems to be fine. They did a life-saving operation, I guess, from what I heard, from what I saw the story earlier today. Barry Windham, who was a very underrated talent, a guy who, yes, he won the NWA World Heavyweight title. He was a multiple-time tag team champion across many different promotions, many territories. He was a multiple-time secondary champion in a number of promotions as well. This is a guy who's considered a top talent during his prime. Basically with where he's at in his life now, of course, he suffered a heart attack, cardiac arrest, while he was going through Atlanta airport. So, we just have to hope and pray for the best for him. And he'll be able to recover. And, and the funny thing is, too, he was, I believe he made an appearance at NWA 74 a few months back, too. So, trying to help that company get back on its feet again. Get more established again. He, along with some other legends like Ricky Steamboat, like Baby Doll, have been getting more and more involved with that of late. So yeah. So anyways, and Bray Wyatt took to Twitter to talk about his uncle's situation. Of course, Bray Wyatt, aka Wyndham Rotunda, is the nephew of Barry and Kendall Wyndham, the grandson of Blackjack Mulligan, aka Robert Wyndham, and of course the son of Mike Rotunda. And as ever, if some of you may remember, back in the 80s, Wyndham and Rotunda were two-time WWF World Tag Team Champions as the U.S. Express. They were also big stars in the Florida territory in the mid to late 80s as well, before they both went on to, Jim Crockett Promotions, eventually WCW. And then Mike Rotunda had a strong follow-up career in the early 90s there as the crooked tax man, Erwin R. Shyster. So anyways, with that now, I think it's a good time to start. So, more thing before we wrap up, of course. Today being Monday, December 5th, 2022. Why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history? All right. So, the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go back 50 years ago. On this date, 50 years ago today. This date 50 years ago today, Marvel Comics would release the first issue of the horror anthology Beware on this date back in 1972. It would eventually I guess, let's see, I think it would eventually become another title altogether. Let me just I think it ran for as soon as I can find the blasted cursor. Yeah, so it became Tomb of Darkness after a while there, but ran for 23 issues. Beware became Tomb of Darkness at issue number 9. But here's the first issue of Beware / Tomb of Darkness, which came out, which is a horror anthology, but that was published by Marvel. That came out in 1972, on this date in 1972. So here we go with that one. Get ready to move on to the next piece of niche history. We're going back 30 years ago. As on this date 30 years ago today, as soon as I can find it, about three animated shows, 3 cartoons came to an end on this date in 1992, 30 years ago today. From CBS's Saturday morning lineup, Fievel's American Tales and Raw Tunage would get canceled, and then Goof Troop, which of course was on ABC syndication and the Disney Channel, would also get so Fievel's American Tales, Raw Tunage, and Goof Troop would all be canceled on this date back in 1992, 30 years ago today.
Anyway, as I was saying, the possum decided to jump up on the porch here.
So, anyways, moving on to the next piece of niche history here is I'd like to actually wish a happy birthday to somebody. I'd like to wish a happy birthday, happy 25th birthday to Japanese female professional wrestler Raku. Currently is signed with Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. So happy 25th birthday to Raku. She's part of the Up Girls with Hikari, Noah, Miyu, and Hinano. So, anyways, so happy 25th birthday to Raku. And finally, our final piece of niche history tonight. Final piece of niche history. On this date back in 2007, 15 years ago today, Production IG's hold on a sec here. Okay, Production IG's Tokyo Mobile Marble Chocolate premiere. The Production IG's OVA Tokyo Marble Chocolate premiered on this date in back in 2007, 15 years ago today. Production IG's Tokyo Marble Chocolate premiere, it was released on DVD on this date back in 2007, 15 years ago today. So, there we go, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Don't forget this Friday, of course, Rick Piper will be joining me as we continue our look down comics history lane. We look back to comics that went on sale in July of 1939. This week, focusing on Dell Comics. Also, don't forget to come back here tomorrow night, every night this week for each news and each newscast. And remember, Sundays now we're also doing the weekend edition, which we're going to have a panel discussion. You never know who's going to show up for that. So I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow as well as every other night. So until then, bye.